Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 3 of Tour of Japan, the review series for the JGTC cars of GT6. And in this episode we're featuring the Honda NSX Mobil 1 GT500 Super GT car. Now, as with many of the JGTC models, there are quite a wide variety of teams to choose from. And they're not just the same car with different paint jobs. It is much more than that. Each one of them does have different merits. Some are fractionally lighter, some are more powerful, some have more torque, and some have completely different engines, which you could quite easily miss in the dealership. Now, this particular NSX is one of the older shape NSX JGTC models. It's a non-premium model, so it doesn't have a fully detailed interior. And it costs 750,000 credits, so it's one of the better priced GT500 models. Not quite as cheap as a GT300 car, of course, but among the cheaper GT500 models. Now, the engine is a 3.5 litre, which produces, when fully tuned, 898 brake horsepower, so pretty powerful. And it also puts out 516 pound-feet of torque, so a decent amount of torque, but primarily power, which isn't too surprising for a Honda engine. Now, the weight of this particular model is 1,150 kilos, so it's kind of the middle weight for GT500 models, not the heaviest, not the lightest. The PP fully tuned is 650, so again, not quite the highest, but not the lowest either, which can be a good thing. Plus, the advantage of sitting perfectly at 650 pp fully tuned is that if you want to use it for 650 pp, you don't have to restrict the engine at all. The power to weight ratio is incidentally a very impressive 781 horsepower per tonne. So overall, how do those specs relate? Obviously to the other JGTC models in general, but specifically to the other NSXs. Because there are so many to choose from, which one should you go for? Well, of the older generation NSXs, this is the highest rated in PP. But it is still a lower PP and significantly less powerful than some of the newer models. Now, it's by no means a slow car. An 898 horsepower may be less, but it's still a lot of power, especially in a vehicle that only weighs 1,150 kilos, so unsurprisingly the performance is very good in a straight line. However, the NSX JGTC cars are fairly well known for being one of the trickier handling models of the JGTC series. Many other models like the Skyline and the Supra are fairly well balanced anyway, whereas the NSX can be a little bit leery on the handling. It can catch you out sometimes. It has a little bit of snap oversteer which can occur, obviously depending on how much power you've got going through the rear wheels, but it's generally accepted that the NSX is the most potentially leery of the GT500 models, and this model of the NSX is no different. It suffers from that same, possibly classed as a downside, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a downside, but it suffers from that same trait, let's say, as pretty much all of the other NSXs. How does it compare to them around the track and for performance though? Well, in a straight line it's still a very quick machine. The top speed is well over 230 with a low downforce setting, so it can easily compete with even the more powerful GT500 models. It's not the fastest of JGTC cars in a straight line, but it is very fast for its power and also has very respectable performance for an older generation JGTC model, because most of the JGTC scene is kind of dominated by the newer premium models, and this car holds up extremely well against those cars. It doesn't give them any ground at all in a battle. Now, around the track we've already discussed the handling, but overall, despite the fact that it can be a bit leery with the snap oversteer, and it does definitely like to spin up its rear wheels when it gets the chance, it's still an excellent track machine. Now, I would recommend primarily using the NSX on tracks where you can use more of its top-end power, because for handling it's quite simply not the best in low-speed corners. There are other GT500 and in some cases even GT300 models which can outmaneuver the NSX in low-speed technical corners or on a track where it requires more of a high average speed rather than a high outright speed. So I'd recommend using the NSXs, and this one in particular, primarily on tracks where you can use all of its power, especially top-end power, such as here at Fuji, but also potentially tracks like Monza, possibly Le Mans if you choose to race there, maybe Twin Ring Motegi, also that's got a decent amount of straight sections, but tracks like that where you can really use the car to your best advantage. So overall, all of the NSXs are very good models, and this one is just as good as any of the others, if not better than some. So that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.